Okay. Good evening. So, the last word we were discussing was BOP, and we have discussed current account. You were there. I made you write the definition of BOP. Ah, so this is a basics class. Again, see, this is basics class is something like knowing about the concept and the word. That's all. Okay. So, and in the balance of payment, in the first part, we have put something like the current account. Okay. And in the second part, we said there are, capital account. Okay. And in the current account, we have written trade, and specifically we have mentioned it is trade with respect to goods. When I say trade, import and export of goods only, it is the merchandise trade. Okay. And then remittances, isn't it? And then we have written services. Okay. And then I've written something like income. Okay. So I can say remittances, or it is something like the transfers. Transfer. Okay. Transfer. Okay. Now what is this transfer? Transfer is something like a one-sided transfer. One-sided transfer is something like in exchange there's nothing paid in return. Okay. So there's nothing like a good nor service. Suppose your brother is sending you money into your pocket, into your account. It is a kind of a transfer. It is a kind of a remittance that is moving in. In return, you are not giving anything else. Okay, so this is basically a transfer. Transfer can also be, it is something like a grant. Grant. Okay, so grant need not be paid back. Grant need not be paid back. Okay, so whether it is grant or suppose Modi ji has gone abroad, he's been given some gifts. Gift. Okay, so that is also part of not remittance. Here it is part of transfers. No, transfers. So remittance is also a kind of what? Transfer. Remittance is also a kind of transfer. So whether it is gifts, grants, all these are transfers which are part of which account? Current account. Okay. And when I said, whenever we discuss trade, we have used the word on one side we have put export, remember? And on the other side we have mentioned something like import. And he said India's case, imports are more than exports, and we have mentioned something like the balance of trade. And balance of trade will only talk about the, I've used this word, isn't it? Visible items. Yes? Okay, visible, I've used it. I remember. Visible items, visible, something that I can feel and touch. So in this is the visible item, trade, visible, goods, okay, visible. So when I say balance of trade, it is talking about export and import of goods, okay. So when I use the word, I'll write it this side only. So when I'm using the word trade surplus, so trade surplus means what? Export is more than, okay. Then we have used this word earlier also, trade deficit. Word is clear, trade deficit. So trade deficit means what? Imports are more than export. Okay. And then trade balance, or we say balance trade. So when I use the word balance trade, it is exports equal to imports. So India's case, we observe there is something like the trade deficit. Trade deficit. Trade deficit is what? Imports are more than exports. This is clear. No confusion here. Is that clear? Okay. Now, when we talk about remittances in 1991, during that point of time, India was facing trade deficits. We've talked about it, high fiscal deficit, high trade deficit. So, even now we observe that generally India faces what? Trade deficit. Our imports are more than exports, India's case. Okay. But when it comes to remittances, here are incoming money, incoming. So I'm writing here incoming. Incoming is somebody sending us money, incoming. And then here I'm writing outgoing. Okay. So when we talk about remittances today, our incoming dollars are more than outgoing. Many Indians are abroad sending money to their families for their personal consumption. So incoming is more than outgoing. So this area we are generally what? Positive. When there is inflow, more of inflow, we are positive. This area today also we are negative. In 1990s also basically we are negative. Okay. So when it comes to services, okay, 1991 when we were facing BOP crisis, that time services industry did not develop. So services, whatever services industry has developed mainly after LPG reforms. I've used the word LPG, isn't it? So services mainly developed after LPG reforms. And today we find services part India is good with respect to its exports, or we are basically positive with respect to services. Generally positive on the services side. So especially software exports, etc. India is good. There is a lot of inflow of dollars. Inflow. More inflow. Inflow of dollars. Is that clear? Okay. And when it comes to income, so income can be in the form of rent. Okay, income can be in the form of rent. Somebody is holding some assets outside. Okay, or it can be somebody has purchased some shares outside. He will receive what? Dividend. Okay, or if you have given loan, etc., you receive what? Interest. All this. Okay, these are not transfers. These are not transfers. Okay, so transfer is something like grant or a gift. That's a transfer. Okay, so when you've invested into shares, you receive something like what? Dividends. Okay, or when you are buying some bond, you receive what? Interest. Or you have given some loan, you receive some interest. Okay, so you're giving some land or you're giving a house on rent. Okay, so you receive some rent, isn't it? Okay, so this is basically income. Income wise also generally India is slightly negative. That means incoming money is less, but outgoing money is more. Are you able to get this? Incoming is less, outgoing is more. Then we can say income wise also India is slightly negative. Okay. Now, income is not same as investment. First understand this. Income is something which I am getting on my investment. So if I am investing into share, I am receiving something like dividend. I am investing into bond, I am receiving something called as interest. So first thing what you should understand is investment is different and income which I am getting on investment is different. Okay. So why this bifurcation you should know is because when I use the word capital account, in this capital account you have investments. Okay. But the income which you receive on this investment is basically going to be part of current account. Is this clear, everybody? So we have talked about bond. What is a bond? Bond is a debt instrument, etc. Everybody? Is that clear? Okay, we have talked about bond. So when you are investing money, so when I say capital account, basically in this capital account, you have two components. One is we have something called as the investments. In the basic class, you just remember the bifurcation, that's all. Which one falls where? Which one is going to fall where? That's all. Investments on one side. On the other side, we have something called as the borrowings. Borrowings is nothing but the loan. So, in the capital account, I have bifurcated capital account into investments and borrowings. Borrowings are nothing but the loans. Okay. Now, when you're investing, you receive some income on that investment. That income which you receive on the investment is going to be part of which account? Current account. Okay. So, when you're giving loans or taking loan is going to be part of which account? Capital account. But the interests on that particular loan will be part of which account? Current account. That bifurcation you observe. So when I say loan or borrowing is part of capital, but interest which you receive on the loan is going to be part of the current. That difference should be clear. That's all. Okay. So anyhow, how BOP, how the accounting happens in BOP. Okay, how accounting happens in BOP, I'll discuss in your foreign exchange class. But that's also just an extension of this. But today we have understood that what is a BOP? BOP account is it is an accounting statement of India, isn't it? Accounting statement. In this accounting statement, you are trying to register some transactions. You are registering transactions of two accounts. What are the two accounts? One is the current account and another one is the capital account. Okay, and it is basically a double entry system. That means there can be something that is incoming and there is something like the outgoing. Incoming is there and there is outgoing. 1991, when we were facing financial crisis, that crisis was also called as the balance of payment crisis. Now, why was it called as a BOP crisis? Now, just try to observe this. Just try to, a small understanding here. Okay, suppose the whole logic is this current account overall tally. When I do the overall tally of the current account, okay, so we generally face a current account deficit. I've used this word, no? Current account deficit. Current account deficit. Now this current account deficit is, let's say, minus 100. Just an example. Minus. That means overall tally, when I see there's 100 units, 100 rupees, 100 going out of the country. Okay. So current account, let's say $100 going out of the country. So current account deficit is minus 100. Minus means what? There is 100 moving out of the country. So now what can I do? What we have to do is, obviously, in the capital account, we have some money. If we have money in the capital account, I'll use that money, push it into the current account, and ultimately I will make this zero. Are you able to get this? Here, if I have inflow, I'll use this account to balance this account. So if I have a deficit in the current account means what? More dollars have moved out of the nation. Simple. More dollars have moved out of the country. Less dollars have come into the country, and therefore we have what? Deficit. And we've also understood that this current account deficit is mainly because of which deficit? Trade deficit. We said the main reason for this current account deficit is mainly because of the trade deficit. This trade deficit is leading to current account deficit. If there is a deficit, now from this current account, if I have more dollars, I will push it and balance it. Now, in this capital account, we have something like investments on one side and borrowings. So that means whatever is borrowed, borrowing also, if you are borrowing from other countries also, it is inflow of dollars. Inflow of dollars. If the foreign entity is investing into India, it is also inflow of dollars. Money is moving in. Similarly, if Indian companies, they are investing abroad, they are buying some assets outside. So Indian entities are buying some assets outside, then obviously there will be outflow of dollars. We are acquiring assets outside. We are acquiring assets outside means you have to pay in dollars and acquire the assets. That means there will be outflow of dollars. Okay, they are acquiring assets in India. Okay, so that means there will be inflow of dollars, as simple as that. Okay, now you are taking loans from outside. You are taking loans from World Bank. You are taking loans from IMF. Whether it can be government or it can be a private company which is taking loans from other countries. Let's say there will be inflow of dollars. Similarly, we are giving loans. Obviously, there will be something like outflow of dollars. Is this clear, everybody? Now, when I talk about investments, we have different types of investments. One is, we call it as FDI. So, terminology class. So, one is foreign direct investment. What is this foreign direct investment? Okay, first question, obviously. In layman's term, don't give the technical definition. You just tell me what is a foreign direct investment. When I use the word foreign direct investment, what is that comes to your mind? Foreign entity coming into India and investing. Okay. Okay. Foreign entity coming into India and investing, that's all? Okay, okay. Regulation is there. Okay. Any other definition? Anything you feel like defining it in a different way? Suppose a foreign company is investing by buying some shares. There is a Indian company, let's say, Indian company X. They have purchased some 5% share in that company, invested into the share market. Share market? Okay. So, is that also foreign direct investment? No, that's not foreign direct investment. So, any investment that is coming into a company need not be a foreign direct investment. Are you able to get this now? Listen very carefully. In simple terms, if there is foreign investment that is coming into India, okay, mainly with the intention of doing business. Mainly with the intention of what? Doing business. Okay. Or setting up a subsidiary firm. See, subsidiary firm is what? Citibank US is there. Now they want to come up with a Citibank India. Or they want to acquire an existing firm. There is an existing firm in India. You want to acquire that existing firm. Why do you want to acquire that existing firm? Mainly to do what? Business. So we generally use the word called what? Foreign direct investment. Okay. So that means investment is moving into the country mainly with the intention of doing business, or you are coming up with a subsidiary firm. You already have a main company, you are coming up with your subsidiary firm for doing business, or you are trying to acquire an existing company. Acquire an existing company. Already there is an existing company, you are trying to acquire that existing company to do business. All that is generally in layman's term. It is what? Foreign direct investment. Of course, that's not the exact technical definition, but that is how an FDI works. That's what I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. You are acquiring, you are becoming an owner, but you will not have major say in the decision making. Okay, you have, see, suppose, so if you have purchased some 1% stake in a company, 1% stake, agreed that you are part of ownership, okay, but do you have main decision making role in that company? No, nothing much. Then why did you buy these shares? Suppose you purchase some 50 shares in Reliance. Why did you buy? Is basically tomorrow if the share value increases, you want to sell the share, make profit. Okay, that's the intention. Similarly, if a foreign player is investing, or a foreign investor is investing in a company, a minor amount of stake he is buying. Why did he buy? Tomorrow he feels that tomorrow the share price increases, he wants to sell it, convert that rupees into dollars and go back to his country, as simple as that. So that is his intention basically. That means he does not have a hold on the company. Though there is some amount of ownership, there is nothing like the hold on the company. So there is no hold. Generally, we don't use the word called FDI. I think you're getting my point, right? Okay. So there are some new definitions that have come up for FDI. There was a UPSC question also asked on this new definition. New definition means, so it's a kind of technical definition. Technical definition is, suppose there is a listed company. There are listed companies, there are unlisted companies. Okay. When I'm using the word unlisted, unlisted means something that is not listed on the stock exchange. Not listed. But still, can unlisted companies sell their equity? Getting my point? Can unlisted company, something that is not listed on the stock exchange, can it sell its share? For example, if you observe Shark Tanks, okay, and the sharks are sitting, and the business owners are coming and pitching their idea, or they're pitching their company and they're raising money, and all their companies are mostly what? Unlisted. They are not listed. They are the owners of the company. Now what they are saying? Give 1 crore for 5% equity. That means they are able to sell their equity for capital, isn't it? That means in their company, which are not listed, they are able to sell their equity for certain amount of money. That means you can sell ownership in your company, no doubt about it. So that is what you observe in the Shark Tanks. All are small companies basically, which have started 2 years back, 1 year back, 3 years back, and they are doing some business. And if the sharks feel their business is okay and they feel that there is a growth prospect, then they decide, okay, give me 5% ownership, I'll pay 1 crore. So you're giving 5% ownership. That means you're selling what? Equity. You're selling your equity, ownership in the company, but still it is not a listed company. Similarly, if it is a listed company, means it's listed in the stock exchange. Listed in the stock exchange. So you can buy shares there also. So you can buy shares of Reliance, you can buy shares of Tata's, isn't it? You can do that in the share market. Okay. Now the basic definition they started, the new definition is, they said, if in a company, if there is investment that is coming in, buying shares by a single entity, now this entity has purchased more than equal to 10%, more than equal to 10% in this listed company. It's a listed company. So this is a listed company. In a listed company, there is foreign investor investing money. Now, if he has invested, if he has purchased more than equal to 10%, 100% equity, in that if he has purchased more than equal to 10, at least 10 and above, then that investment will be treated as FDI. This is the new definition. 10% you are holding and above. Okay, it will be treated as what? FDI. Are you able to get this? Then they also said next year, though you may sell off some stake, this foreign player who has purchased 10%, let's say has purchased 10%. Next year, he sold some 2%. Now he's holding only 9% or 8% in his hand. And still, he will be treated as FDI. That means what? Once you are treated as FDI, henceforth, you will be treated as what? FDI. FDI. This is the new definition. Why new definition? We'll talk about it after some time. But the basic understanding of FDI is what? Foreign investment coming into the country with the intention of what? Doing business, setting up a subsidiary firm or acquiring. But the primary intention is you are doing business. You have some right in the business. Are you able to get this? Now, but if now the new definition says if the foreign investment is coming into a listed company, something that is listed in the stock exchange, and if there is an investor who's investing more than equal to 10%, he's holding 10 and above, that investment will be treated as what? FDI. FDI. That investment will be treated as FDI. Though you are buying shares, here you are buying shares, no? You're buying equity means what? You're buying shares. Though you are buying shares, if you buy more than 10%, more than equal to 10, it will be treated as what? FDI. I hope it is clear. UPSC asked this question. Foreign investment, foreign institutional investment, FI, with certain conditions is treated as FDI. The answer is true. Why? Foreign institutional investment is that, we'll come to that discussion. It is that investment which is going into the share market. So here that investment which is going into the share market also can be treated as what? FDI, provided 10% and above. In an unlisted company, unlisted means something that is not listed. Any investment of the foreign player will be treated as FDI. In an unlisted company, something that is not listed, the foreign player decided to buy some equity in that unlisted company. That will be treated as what? FDI. So this is some new definitions. You at least don't remember unlisted in the basics class, but at least you will be remembering the listed part. So something that is listed, FDI, if there is a sale of shares and this foreign entity is holding more than equal to 10, then that particular investment will be treated as what? FDI. This is the first thing. The word FDI is clear. FDI is what? Foreign direct investment. Now next question comes up. What is the benefit of this investment? First is creating more jobs. When the foreign entity is coming here with the intention of doing business, for example, Amazon has moved into India. Okay, tomorrow Tesla is coming into India, let's say. So they are here with some investment and their primary intention is doing business. The immediate benefit is we are going to get what? Jobs. So job creation, FDI helps in creating more jobs. Is that clear? Understood. Is that okay? Now the second thing is, whenever foreign investor is coming into India, he will bring his new technology into India. So obviously he's striving for efficiency. So when he's striving for efficiency, he's going to bring new technology into the Indian market. So immediate two benefits are, one is job creation and two, there will be new modern technology that will be moving in. Are you able to get this? Okay, tomorrow Indian companies can ape that technology slowly. So is this clear? So two main benefits of FDI is, one is you will have job creation. Along with job creation, there will be technology. Now the question is, why will a foreign investor invest only in India now? So FDI investment can come into India, it can go to China, it can go to any other country. What do you think are some factors which can decide that more foreign investment should move into India? What do you think would be some factors? Okay, so somebody has said market stability. What else? Cheap labor. So one is, somebody is saying cheap labor. That means in 1960s, more foreign direct investment would have moved into China because China opened up its economy. We discussed that, no? 60s and 70s, India was following import substitution. India was more of a closed economy. But the Southeast Asian nations, they followed an open economy. They allowed foreign investors to invest. And that was a period, obviously, more FDI investments would have moved into China and they would have utilized the benefits of availability of cheap labor. Actually, it is not just cheap and efficient labor. Today, if Indian labor, Indian workers are cheap as well as efficient, then obviously foreign investors, foreign IT companies may decide, yes, let me set up my office in India because I get efficient labor and I also pay less. So obviously it is beneficial. Obviously the benefit is what? Profit for the company. So company will check. Second is how the policies are there. Whose policies? Obviously government policy. So suppose the present governments are pro-business. Present government is pro-business. Pro-business policies means pro-business policies will be in terms of less restrictions on trade, You are following more of an open economy, Government has reduced the restrictions, or it can be with respect to government's tax policies. Government tax policy is more transparent and efficient. Government's tax policy is more transparent and efficient. Okay, or it can be something like the labor laws of the country. I've used the word labor laws earlier. Yes, so labor laws of the country. Suppose there is easy hire and fire policy. The company which is coming into India, now you say, hey company, if you want to recruit, you recruit. But if you want to pull them out of the job, you have to take our permission, government's permission. Then the company will think twice. Okay, why should I enter into India? Because I have to take permission of government. Hiring I can do, but fire I can't do. So this is something like that means even the policies of the government can be in the form of legal policies. So legal policies can be in the form of labor laws, the laws related to labor. It can be with respect to the taxing policies of the government. It also depends on the tax rates. Suppose government is charging very high taxes on the foreign player. Then the foreign player will think probably China is better for me than India because I'll make more profits in China. So that means government's policies play a very important and significant role. And then it also, government policies will include even permissions. For entering into India, if you have to take 101 permissions, okay, you go behind RBI, okay, that means if you have a single window clearance facility, single window clearance means under a single roof, all the approvals related to government are given. Otherwise, for everything you are running around government offices to get your approvals, then the foreign investor, all this is related to what? Doing business. Doing business index you call it as, which is given by World Bank. So doing business, if it is difficult in India, doing business is difficult in India, as it is little difficult. Doing business, if it is difficult in India, then the foreign investor will think 100 times before coming into India. So before 1990, during the era of License Raj means what? For every industry, for increasing production, you have to take the permission of government. That means there was more interference of what? Government. So under such circumstances, do you think foreign investor would be interested in coming into India? Obviously no. New entrepreneurs will not be interested in setting up businesses. Similarly, new foreign investment will not move easily. Another question. Before 1991, when there was more of a closed economy means there is more of trade barriers, etc. So obviously foreign investors will hesitate in terms of investing into India. Number two, is that clear? Then, when we talk about labor laws in India, so initially after independence, we understood that during the British period, labor was exploited. And since labor was exploited, government decided to protect the labor. And therefore, they have come up with stringent labor laws. Government has come up with what? Strict labor laws. And one of the important aspects of the strict labor law is a company cannot retrench labor. If there are 100 employees in a company, 100 workers in a company, the company cannot retrench the labor. Retrench is pulling off the labor unless and until you take the permission of the Ministry of Labor and Employment. You have to take the permission of government, only then you can pull out the labor. Under such circumstances, do you think more foreign investors will be looking at India? No. So, more liberal policies, more government, more pro-business policies, obviously there will be more inflow of foreign investment. The word is clear, right? FDI is clear. So it depends on multiple factors. These are few factors which will decide whether foreign investors will look at India as an ideal destination or not. Today, India is a very good destination for foreign investment in comparison to the global economies. Okay, I'll talk about it later, not in the basics class. Okay, so because of multiple factors. Now observe, that means before 1990s, we had this problem, that is current account, there is deficit. But obviously, even capital account, no investments, because we were more of a closed economy. No much of FDI is moving in. No dollars are moving in. That means here also we are not doing well. We didn't have dollars here. Here also there is no money. Okay. And in the pocket of RBI, RBI did not have the forex reserve. See, the second thing is, this is minus 100, and here also it is, let's say, minus 100. Just an example, minus 100. That means we thought we will use this to bridge this. Or let's say we have 50 here, 50. So I have pushed 50. Now it is minus 50. Now I've used the capital account also. I've used the capital account also. So in this it is minus 100. Here I have plus 50 overall. And I pushed this 50. This became minus 50. But still there is a deficit in the overall BOP. Deficit in the overall BOP. Overall BOP is what? Both current plus capital. So in the overall BOP, there is deficit. Now what is the way out then? Then if these two are over, okay, so we have our RBI. RBI is there. He is seen as the godfather. Now you have used your capital account also, still there is deficit. So now RBI is seen as the godfather. Why? Because RBI will sit on what? Forex reserve. I've used the word forex reserve earlier. So RBI has this dollars, euros. So now RBI should pull this money out. Let's push $50 from its pocket, from its reserve, and make this account zero now. But in this reserve also, this is empty. This is empty. Current account deficit is high. Your capital account is still not there. Okay, so there is problem here also. That means you went into a deep crisis, which is called as what crisis? BOP crisis. If you that is the reason today a similar kind of crisis will not come. So if somebody is asking, if there is COVID, now COVID cases are increasing, let's say, and tomorrow again if it is going to become severe and Indian economy is going to do bad for the next 4 or 5 years also, do you think India will be facing similar BOP crisis? No. Why? Because if this is empty, this is negative, and this is empty, and still we have enough forex reserve, and still we have enough, therefore still we have, because we have enough forex reserve, you will not face a similar what? BOP crisis. I'll use my reserve. If this also becomes empty, now I have to borrow from other countries, push gold, take loan, all that stuff. But since I have enough reserve, a similar kind of BOP crisis will not come, in spite of Indian economy not doing well maybe for the next few years as well. That is the reason you are calling it as BOP crisis, and said the main reason for crisis is we did not have enough forex to manage our trade for more than 15 days. That means if I have forex, if this becomes negative, even this is also negative, I will use this reserve and balance the account. Balance the account. But still, if this is not there, then you are in crisis. You have to borrow from outside. That is what I mean by saying that BOP crisis is mainly because of forex. Lack of forex. This is the reason. I hope everybody has understood. Okay. Now, one word, that is FDI, is clear. Now, there is one more word there. Okay, so you find one more investment which is called as FII. Foreign Institutional Investment. I'll explain this. The word FDI is clear? Word is clear, right? Foreign Direct Investment. 10% of the company is holding, obviously. See, when it is when you are saying open, owner, if you want to be an owner, it is how much? 51. Okay. Is this clear till here? Okay. Now, when I use the word FII, now observe the word. There is a difference between FII and FDI. FII. Foreign Institutional Investment. If this is the smaller circle, the bigger circle, they use the word, terminology word is FPI. In the newspapers, you will come across this word. When you're reading newspapers, you'll come across this word called Foreign Portfolio Investment. The word is important, Foreign Portfolio. So that means this FII is also a portfolio investment. But FDI will not fall in this circle. Now, very important. UPSC asked this simple question. Okay, which of the following is a portfolio investment? This was a question. And they gave some options, and in that option they have pushed FDI also. FDI is not a portfolio. FDI will fall somewhere here. Of course, the new definition is talking about shares and all, but FDI is not a portfolio. I'll come to portfolio. First, let's try to understand foreign institutional investment. I hope it is clear till here. Okay. So when I use the word institution, okay. So in India, who regulates stock markets? Okay. In India, Indian stock markets are regulated by this institution called SEBI. Security Exchange Board of India. Those who do not know, okay, so you have to make, we have to remember this word. It's a regulatory body. Security, like RBI. RBI regulates what? Banks. IRDA is going to regulate insurance. Like that, SEBI regulates the stock exchanges, stock markets. Now, there are some foreign players, X, Y, Z, P. They also want to buy shares in the Indian stock market. Let's say they also want to buy shares in the Indian stock market. Now, this foreign institutional investor, let's say there's a foreign institutional investor, a company like Morgan Stanley. It's a foreign institution which has already taken a license. It has already taken a license from SEBI to operate in India. This foreign institution has already taken a license to operate in India. Now, these investors who are outside India, they want to invest, they want to buy shares of TCS, Wipro, whatever it is. Now, they enter into the Indian stock market through this institution called Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is there, they submit their details, Morgan Stanley submits all their details to SEBI and take permissions from SEBI, okay, because you have to submit all your documents and without SEBI's approval you cannot invest. So take permissions from SEBI, and after taking permission from SEBI, through this foreign institution, they are buying the shares in the Indian stock market. Through this foreign institution, they are buying shares in the Indian stock market, and therefore we use the word called foreign institutional investment. Institutional investment. What is this institutional? These investments are rooted through the institution. These investments are rooted through the institution. Now, is it that every Tom, Dick and Harry can he become an investor? No. There will be some conditions. Remember that. So, everybody cannot become an investor who can directly invest into the Indian stock market. There will be certain conditions which you have to adhere to, then you can invest. So, the word here is it clear? FI. Now, this FI investor, whoever is the FI investor who are investing in the Indian stock market, their primary intention is generally not to do business. They are not interested much in business. They will buy some 5%, 2%, 3%. Why are they buying? Basically to make some profit. Tomorrow, if the share prices increase, they want to sell them off and they want to take that money. They are investing mainly for profit, and their profit is dependent on valuation. They are not interested in something like doing business in India. They want to invest, and when the share prices increase, they want to sell it and they want to go back. Now, in one go, most of the FI investors are selling off and they are going back to their country. Okay, this will create problems in our stock market. It will create problems in our share market or stock market. Why? Because in one go, most of them are selling. When will you sell in the share market? If you expect that the share prices are going to fall. When you expect that, it's all about expectation law. When maximum number of people expect that the share prices are going to fall, they try to sell it as much as possible. So suddenly everybody is trying to sell. You will observe that our stock exchange is going down. Our Sensex is falling. Are you able to get this point? Okay, so these FI investors can create some problem in the stock exchanges. Why? Because these FI investments are volatile. Easily they move in, easily they move out. So that means these FI investments, there is easy flight of capital. The word is flight of capital. What is flight of capital? Easily the investment is moving out of India. Are you able to follow? Easily the investment is moving out of India. There is this flight of capital, and these FI investments are more volatile than FDI. These investments are more volatile. Why? Because you're buying. Why are you buying shares? For profit. You find there's some disturbance, immediately they'll sell the shares and they will move off. A small government policy, for example, when Kasab and his friends attacked Mumbai, not our friends, his friends. Okay, they have attacked Mumbai. Why did you attack Mumbai? Multiple reasons. It's a financial hub. If you can hit the economy of the country, it is as good as hitting the country. After such attacks, investors will not be interested in investing in the Indian market. Why? Because one of the important aspect of economic stability and growth is, first thing is political stability, number one, and security. When these things are good, there will be more business prospects. When these things are bad, there will not be any business prospects. For example, will the foreign investors think of investing in Pakistan? No. Obviously, no. If you compare Pakistan with India, what are the reasons? Stability. The country is highly unstable and you don't know what will happen when. And then you can't expect business profits out of such countries, and therefore you will not be thinking of investments. That is the basic difference. Stability is not there. So one of the important factor for economic investment is political stability. More is the political stability, more would be the investment. Are you able to get this? Okay. So when a terror attack happens, indicating the vulnerability of a country, that means you're not able to protect your financial capital from a terror attack, which is creating some instability. You're hitting the economic capital of the country, then automatically these foreign investors may think tomorrow India may not be a right destination. Let me move out of the country first. So what they will do, they'll sell their shares off, take the money and they'll invest it back into US. That means such incidents will also lead to what? Flight of capital. Nowadays, government, when it is taking certain decisions, government is very much worried about this situation of what? Flight of capital. Suppose tomorrow Modi ji comes up with saying, let's say we will try, these FI investors are evading tax. They evade tax, no doubt about it. There are different ways of escaping tax. Evade is what? Escape. Or you're using, most of the multinational companies, they use the tax loopholes in the system and they avoid paying tax, including big companies like Google. Are you able to get this? Now, when that is the case, if government nowadays is not in a position to be assertive, government is not saying, hey, Google, come here, pay the tax. No, you can't use such language with, why? Because Google is responsible for what? Creation of jobs, and by 2040, we are more dependent on them. Are you able to get this? You have to handle them very politely, very nicely, in spite of they not paying tax. So therefore, nowadays, Indian tax officers or the government cannot be too assertive with big companies. Assertive is what? Do it. This is wrong. You are not saying that. Try to do it. No. You're requesting them. Okay, please do it. Okay, why? Because it is our requirement. Tomorrow they may find another destination. They may say India is not good. Indian government is penalizing us, so we will not invest in India. If they make such statements, if other investors also get motivated, suddenly investors remove money, the stock market gets affected, economy gets affected, then overall economy is in trouble. And that is also one of the reasons when you are framing policies and implementing, policy may be good, but implementing it assertively is becoming difficult because you are becoming too much dependent on the foreign investors. Today, most of the jobs which are coming, IT sector also, most of the jobs are because of MNCs, not because of Indian companies. I think you're getting my point. So if you are asking these foreign companies, what is this? We can't speak like Trump. We don't have the luxury. Trump says Indians go out. Okay, that kind of luxury we don't have. So if you are too assertive, these companies may move out, and therefore you have to play a balanced approach in controlling them. And these investments are even more volatile than FDI. FDI, at least they have spent money to do business. They will not move in one go. There will be some thought if they have to move out. But these people can sell the shares and immediately move out. So this easy movement or easy flight of capital, since they are volatile, FII investment is also called as hot money. Hot money is something like volatile. There will be easy what? Flight of capital. I hope it is clear. Is that clear? Okay. Now, government was saying, government's new rules is, if this FII investment that is coming in into a company, listed company, if it is greater than equal to 10, we will treat it as FDI. Why they are treating FDI is less volatile. They won't treat it as FDI means FDI is less volatile. I'll talk about it. Why after 5-10 minutes. FDI is less volatile. We'll treat it as FDI and not as FII. Okay, FDI, there is a logic. What is this logic? India's case, earlier the situation is we were not allowing foreign investors to easily come into India. What we were saying, we were coming up with some barriers. Today we said, no, we need foreign investors, please come. After 1990s, we started allowing foreign investors to easily invest into the Indian market. And let's say they started doing their business. But they have understood that they are making losses and they want to sell their company. And when they want to sell their company and convert those rupees into dollars and they want to go back to their country, they need to take the permission of government and RBI. Now listen very carefully. In India, incoming is okay. Outgoing, you have to take permission. I think you're getting my point. So when you are investing into India, we say, yes, please invest. We are going to support you. But you want to sell your company and you want to walk out. You can't just walk out. Okay, you have to take the permissions of Indian government and RBI, and then only then you can move out of the country. So this is basically like the Abhimanya's Chakravyuha. Entry is there, but exit, please take permissions. Exit, you have to take permission because this is because we are treating it as what? FDI, talk about it. It is FDI means you cannot sell the company off immediately, I'll move out. There will be permissions which you have to take to convert those rupees into dollars, you want to move out. Okay, so that is one aspect which we will talk about in another 5-10 minutes, and that is the reason government will be always interested in treating something more as FDI than FI. So FDI means something that is coming in, you have a hold and you're doing some business, you want to sell your stake, you want to convert those rupees into dollars and move out. Now you take permission of RBI and government. Government says, okay, go, then go. Okay. So there is a negative also. What is a negative? Before investing, he will think, suppose I say after you have entered my class, I'll lock the door. And you can't go. And you like it or not, you have to watch and enjoy. Then before entering the class, 10 times you will think, aaj ka class kya hoga, kaise padhayega. Now same with the investor. You're locking the door outside. You're locking the door outside. So he will think, India, if you go, you can't come out so easily. China, if I go, I can come out easily. Then better, I think I'll go to China. So investment easily will not move because of this restriction. But we have a logic for this restriction. We'll talk about the logic after some time. But you have understood the difference between FDI and FI. Which is more stable? FDI. Which creates more employment? FDI. Which is more volatile? FII. Which is called as hot money? FII. And in which investment there is more flight of capital? That's it. FDI only. That is what. If it is, actually I didn't want to mention that clause in the basics class, but somehow it slipped from my discussion basically that basic is you have clear, it is clear. Now the question is FII investment only. If it is crossing 10, we will henceforth treat it as what? FDI. And once we have treated it as FDI, once an FDI, always an FDI. There are some committees like Mayaram committee which gave these instructions, and that is not important as of now. Okay, so you will only understand in the BOP, we have talked about current. Is that clear, everybody? Okay, then we said capital. In the capital, I have used investment. Obviously, this investment will be foreign investment. Here I have put foreign direct investment, and another word we have used, foreign institutional investment. Is this clear? Put this chart. Is this there in the, you have drawn this as last class? No. Okay, wait, let me talk about this also. See, nowadays there are some questions. Last year economics questions, they have increased the level by 2%. Okay, last year only. Why they have increased the level is because, why? Not recession. I am talking about UPSC question paper level. Recession. Not about recession, because the UPSC is least bothered about recession because government is not affected, government jobs are not affected with any recession. We don't have any recession. We are always there. Okay. More recession means more dependence on government. You become more powerful, in fact. Now the question is, since easy questions already everybody has asked, and there are so many test series you are solving before going to UPSC. So filtration has become difficult. Same question started repeating multiple number of times about FDI, FI, that, this. So everything is over. And obviously, teachers like me are obviously saying first solve UPSC previous questions. So you will solve it at least 3-4 times. Then how to filter is becoming difficult, and therefore they started. This is the reason basically. More access to material, more difficult is the. More difficult and more tricky is the. And still, I think you're getting my point, right? But of course, the questioning is on the core concepts only. But he plays with words. Playing with words means he's playing with English only there. Okay, so FI with certain conditions is FDI. Which condition? He will not mention. That you should know. What is the condition? That 10%. You should visualize, oh, this is, he framed the question in this logic, that FI in 10. So that is the reason when you're solving all the previous questions, you have to play with the options. Always remember, in spite of learning the concepts 100%, we will not feel that, yes, I know this concept, straight away I go to the answer. No, you know the concept and still we respect UPSC, we go to the options, we find out the wrong answer, eliminate the option, and then slowly go to the right answer. Because there will be some dicey options in the exam. I think it is clear. If you are able... Yes, yes. FDI basically is, generally it's not a single entity, generally it's a company, companies investing. But if you have FI entities, individual entities, now here also it is, money is moving through this foreign institution only, no? Money is moving. There are different investors, but ultimately who is investing in it? It is that foreign institution which has taken permission from SEBI. What is his personal? No. See here, if this XYZ, these XYZ, PQR can be individual entities also. Okay, so they can invest. Okay, so if it is individual entity also, if it is crossing that 10%, it will be treated as FDI. FDI treat करना पड़ेगा उसको, not FI. Okay, so because it is his company. Is this clear till here? Words are clear. Now let's go to few more words here. Then we will write these words after 5 minutes. So when I'm using the word borrowing, so this is something like some 2-3 terms here. See, I will increase the level in the regular class where we will talk about some foreign currency convertible bond, where will it go, all that it's not in the basics class. Okay, so here when I say borrowings, one is we have one borrowing which is called as the external commercial borrowing. I have written one word here, borrowing. UPSC earlier used to ask which of the following is not part of investment, and it used to give this word. Earlier, this was questioning pattern in 2016 and 17. Now they are not asking such questions because everybody is answering it. Everybody is answering it, therefore they are not asking such questions. Earlier they asked which of the following is not a portfolio investment, and in that they have given FDI. Now they will not ask. Okay, so now here external commercial borrowing means somebody in India, mainly corporate companies borrowing from outside India, you're taking loan from some bank outside India for a long-term period. You're taking loan for a long-term period. External commercial borrowing, the word commercial. So observe the words here. The word is what? Commercial. What is the meaning of commercial? That means commercial loan means there will not be subsidy in your interest. Whatever is the market rate, you have to pay that rate. They are not going to subsidize it for you. You are a corporate company, you are taking a long-term loan from outside India for doing business in India. Maybe you are buying some technical equipment or some machines, etc. You are taking loans for that, and you are taking this loan for a long-term period. What is long-term here? This loan period is generally for more than 1 year. We treat it as what? External Commercial borrowing. There is no discount in this borrowing, no discount in the sense there is no subsidy with respect to the interest, and that is the reason we are using the word called commercial. Is that clear? So this loan is generally long-term, and generally the corporate is taking from outside India. Why will somebody take loan from outside India? When will he take? Less interest. If the loan interests are more in India, then maybe Ratan Tata may feel like if I borrow from outside India for my business, it is better. So when interest rates are high in India and when interest rates are decent outside, then he may decide to take loan from what? Outside India. When it is available within the country, he will not think of borrowing from outside. As simple as that. Is that clear, everybody? Okay. There is more of ECB borrowing, means there will be more of inflow of what? Dollars, isn't it? There is more ECB borrowing, means because these loans are in foreign currency. You're taking it from outside India in dollars. There will be more inflow of what? Dollars. Is that clear, everybody? Okay. Now, I'm writing one more word here, that is external assistance. Now, the word itself, external assistance. When I use the word assistance, remember this assistance means it is also a loan. Because if it would have been a grant, it should be where? Current account. If it would have been a grant or a transfer, it will be in current. That means something I'm writing here means it is not a grant. It is not a transfer. If it would have been a transfer or a gift or a grant, it will be in the current account. So this word of assistance, don't get confused. It is an assistance, but still it is a loan. But it is basically a soft loan. The loan is soft in the sense they will give you loans at lesser interest. This is commercial. This is soft. That means they will give long-term loans, and they can also give short-term, but this is mainly at a subsidized interest. For example, government is taking loan from IMF, Indian government, or Indian government can take loan from World Bank. Now World Bank said, okay, India, you are struggling, let us give you loan at lesser interest. It is a kind of what? It's a kind of external assistance, but still it's a loan. I have to pay it back. Zero interest loan is also a loan. Zero interest loan is also a loan. If it is a loan or a borrowing, it has to figure out in the capital account. Zero interest loan also I have to at least pay the principal amount. Grant means I will not pay the principal also, isn't it? Grant is something like a free. So this is the basic difference between external commercial borrowing and external assistance. Is that clear? Okay. Now, so you will just push this BOP and put the words there. Put this chart. Very simple only. We have not put any technical terms there. You will just mention balance of trade. First put BOP, then put current trade, balance of trade, remittances, services, income. Draw a line and then put capital account. In this you put investments and borrowings. Is that okay? FII is not so helpful in creating jobs. FII. See, FII's primary logic is basically, what is the benefit of FII? What is the benefit of FII for Indian government? Capital for whom? Share market. That is companies basically. It's a source of capital for the companies. FII investor is investing and buying shares means what? It is a source of capital for the company. Isn't it? No, company is raising money. It is selling its equity. Okay, source of capital for the government. When you're doing these transactions, there is some tax. Are you able to get this? What are you talking? You were not there in the basics class. I said I am a company. Remember the first basic class or second basics class. Listen. I am a company. I want to raise capital. I said, how do I raise capital? What are the two ways of raising capital? No IPO, no FPO. One is debt. Debt. I will borrow. I would have mentioned it. I said I'll borrow from parents, family, banks, or bonds. I've used the word bond, and we've discussed why bond is called as a debt instrument. Or I can sell my equity. You're selling your share. If somebody is buying your shares, how do they buy shares? By giving you what? Money. It is a source of capital for your business. Understood? Now, some foreign investor is buying your shares. Means that is also a source of capital for you. Is that okay? Company has a benefit, no? Otherwise, what is somebody is buying, no? Got it? See, you are issuing shares. See, how are shares available in the share market, first of all? IPO, FPO, chodo. Company wants to raise money, therefore it is issuing share. First of all, somebody has to issue shares, no? If they have to get traded. What is a share market? What is a market? Market is a place where buyers and sellers meet. Share market is a place where buyers and sellers meet for trading what? Shares. You are buying and selling shares, that's all. Forex market is what? It's a market where buyers and sellers meet for what? Buying foreign exchange, foreign currency, dollar, euro, pound. Got the point? No. Okay. So first of all, shares should be available, no? So how are shares available? Somebody has to issue. Who is going to issue? Companies. Yes. And then in the then it gets into the share market. You can sell it to somebody in the share market. Where? Yes. No. Don't see. It's not that we need companies like Microsoft and Google. Google also needs us. It's a two-way relationship. Now the question is, I've used it in a context saying that government cannot be too assertive. Government cannot be too strict with respect to forcing the foreign companies to pay tax anyhow. Why? Because tomorrow Google may have other options, no? Google may not reinvest. Google may not open another branch in India. Are you able to get this? It's not that company will compulsorily go back out of India, but Google may reduce its operations in India. That is also sufficient for not creating employment opportunities in India. Are you able to get my point? Yes. Generally private companies can also ask, but it should be on the other party whether they should give or not, no? Why should they give a subsidized loan to a private entity is the question. Understood? Generally, they have to borrow for under the ECB only. Generally, if somebody is giving you a loan at subsidized rate, they want to help you. So why should somebody help a private player is the question. Are the words clear? Understood? Yes. Let's move forward. Till here, I think it is clear. Everybody has understood the words, right? ECB, etc. Okay. Now, okay. Just put the heading balance of trade. Balance of trade. We have written that word earlier. We have written balance of. What was the last word? Balance. Depreciation, balance of. Okay. Balance of trade we have written, right? In fact. Okay, then write down. Just write. Current account deficit. Current account deficit. Current account deficit. Current account deficit is one of the most important economic indicator. Write down. CAD is one of the most important economic indicator. One of the most important economic indicator which can indirectly affect which can indirectly affect rupee value, comma, inflation, and also fiscal deficit of the government. Okay, continue. Current account deficit and fiscal deficit. Current account deficit and fiscal deficit are called as twin deficits. We talked about it the other day, isn't it? Twin deficits. What is the meaning of twin deficit? One will cause other. CAD will lead to FD, FD will lead to CAD. This is what we have used the word twin deficit hypothesis. Okay. No? No. Okay, fine. So current account deficit and fiscal deficit are called as twin deficits. Okay. Twin deficits means if there is CAD increasing, okay, it will also indirectly lead to increase in fiscal deficit, and if this is increasing, it will again lead to increase in CAD. You can put it this way: twin deficits, CAD leading to FD, and again FD leading to CAD. This is what is called. I'll talk about it. I didn't discuss how CAD will lead to FD. Okay. How trade deficit will lead to FD? No, I have not discussed. Okay, fine. So twin deficits. Okay. Therefore, write down. Therefore, CAD should be maintained. Under 3 to 3.5% of GDP. Under 3 to 3.5% of GDP. 3 to 3.5% of GDP. It again depends on different countries. Suppose if my GDP is 100 rupees, your CAD should not be more than 3. Are you able to get this? So you should keep this CAD under control. That is what we have written. Is this clear there? Okay. Now, listen very carefully. So when CAD is increasing, it means more dollars are moving out of the country or moving into the country. Deficit is increasing. Deficit means that negative value is increasing. Okay, that means more dollars are moving out of the country. More dollars are moving out of the country. Did we draw the dollar supply graph, rupee demand and supply graph in the earlier classes? Demand and supply. Okay, fine. We'll not draw it again. We'll just try to understand. Easily you can understand. Dollars are moving out of the country means dollar supply is going to increase or decrease? Dollar supply is going to decrease. So dollar supply is decreasing means there is more demand for what? Dollars. There is more demand for dollars. So more demand for dollars means I have to pay less rupees or more rupees in the forex market. As simple as that. In the forex market, I have to pay more rupees to buy the dollar. Pay more rupees to buy the dollar, isn't it? I'm paying more rupees to buy the dollar means what is happening to my rupee value with respect to dollar? Depreciating. Rupee value is depreciating. Now, rupee value is depreciating means what will happen to my imports? Imports will become costly. Remember, rupee value, I made you write also. Rupee value depreciation will make exports cheaper and imports costly. So that means my imports are going to become what? Costly. Even essential imports like food, oil or fertilizer is going to become costly, isn't it? And these are not just economic goods, these are also a kind of what? Political goods. One is economic good only, it will also decide the election result as well. So what I mean by political good is, tomorrow everybody, if the fuel prices are increasing on a consistent basis, and food prices are increasing on a consistent basis, public will not like it. Okay, so then obviously what will government try to do from its pocket? Government will try to increase what? Subsidy. Government will try to increase subsidy. So government is increasing subsidy means what is happening to government's expenditure? Increasing. From its pocket it is spending money. This is nothing but an act of fiscal. Remember the word? Fiscal stimulus. You're spending more from your pocket. Okay. That means for the government, its receipts, incoming money will become less, but expenditure is going to increase. This is not there and government has to spend means how will government spend? Borrow and spend. Government will borrow and spend. Is that okay? So that means if government is borrowing and spending, then what is happening to the debt burden? And this debt burden or borrowings of the government is nothing but what? Fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit. Have you followed? Fiscal deficit. That means a factor called as CAD, if it is reaching beyond a level, not in a control, then it indirectly makes government spend more from its pocket. It indirectly makes government spend more from its pocket. So an aspect called as current account deficit increasing can also have an impact on this deficit called fiscal deficit. Is that clear? Okay. So generally that is the reason if you have to keep this under control. Is that okay? Okay. Now if this is clear, now whenever government is giving more of Atmanirbhar Bharat packages or fiscal stimulus, government is giving a lot of subsidy, etc., more transfers to the poor, etc., whatever it is. When this is the case, okay, people will buy more of imported items or people will buy more of regular items. So if the government is giving more money into your hands, or you can have more money in your hand, there is more scope for the public also to consume more of what? Imported items. This is one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it, if government is pumping money, okay, this pumping of money can happen through different ways. It is borrowing, or sometimes if RBI, government says RBI, why don't you mint money and give? This is the last option obviously. Last option is what? Now there is crisis, you please mint money and give. Now this is the last option. Why? Because this will be inflationary. Why? New money you are pumping into the economy. Are you able to get this? No, new money if you are pumping into the economy, otherwise everybody can be made rich, no, in India. RBI mint and take. Okay, so therefore everybody is rich. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. Why? Because new money is coming. Now for a loaf of bread tomorrow, you have to take a lorry full of cash. Same, you remain same. You remain, this is what is inflation, no, too much of inflation. So this is the last option. But suppose if RBI, government says, see, I don't have money. Government says, I don't have money. Okay, I want to spend money, a lot of money on public's welfare now. COVID has come, why don't you mint and give? Or I borrow. Government is borrowing and spending. But government says, we'll give a lot of money to public because people are struggling. So people's consumption with respect to imported items will increase. Or it can also increase, in this case, it can also increase the rupee supply. Either ways. If this is the case, more new rupees are coming into the market, means rupee supply in the market can increase. Are you able to get this? Or it can be something like people have more money in hand, companies are given more subsidy. This is not just about people. Companies are given more subsidies. They can also use imported raw material. Okay, so overall, if you see more imported raw material, more imported items, if you see, it is something like imports increasing. So this can again lead to what? This can again lead to trade deficit. Is that okay? Trade deficit means it can again, trade deficit is a part of what? Current account deficit. That means this can again lead to current. This is all probability. Do you say definitely this will happen? Nobody can say definitely this will happen. But there's every probability that yes, if CAD is increasing, FD can increase. And there's every probability that if FD increases, CAD can also increase. Are you able to get this? So here, if I do it this way, now rupee supply is increasing. From this angle, rupee supply is increasing, means again what will happen to rupee value? Decreases. Rupee value decreases, again my imports can become what? Costly. Okay, so either ways, if you see, if FD is increasing, imported items, more of consumption of imported items. See, one imported item where government tries to put control is, India is very fond of gold. So whenever gold imports are increasing, and if that gold import is increasing the current account deficit, gold, sometimes gold also, already food, petrol, oil, these are becoming costly, and top of it, if gold is also adding, then government immediately says, we will double the customs duty on gold from 2% to 4% to 6, to demotivate companies and public to buy gold, because gold is not a necessity. But since it is not a necessity and still it is adding on to my, like this government takes some measures. Okay, but always remember, this is what is twin deficit hypothesis. Twin deficit hypothesis means what? CAD is leading to FD, FD is leading to CAD. That much you will remember. Twin deficit hypothesis. Then put the heading capital account. Capital account. Okay, in the capital account, under capital account, just mention investments. Investments. Okay, investments. Under that, just write down FDI. FDI. Foreign direct investment. Just write down. Okay, in detail again, we'll talk about it in the class, other external sector. But what is FDI? Foreign direct investment. Okay, just mention one line here. Foreign investment that is moving into the country. Foreign investment which is moving into the country with the intention of doing business, comma, setting up a subsidiary firm, or acquiring an existing company, etc. Continue writing. FDI can move into greenfield and brownfield projects. Write down. FDI can move into greenfield and brownfield projects. Greenfield and brownfield projects. Okay. What is greenfield? You are building the company from scratch. It is a new company. Brownfield, already there is an existing company and you are investing into an existing company. That is called as what? Brownfield. So FDI can move into a new company. You are setting up altogether a new entity. That is greenfield. Already there is an existing entity. You are investing money into an existing entity. That is basically called as what? Brownfield. Is that clear? Okay. FDI helps in creating jobs. Continue. FDI helps in creating jobs. FDI helps in creating jobs. And also bring modern technology. Into the country. Continue. FDI is not a portfolio investment. FDI is not a portfolio investment. Not a portfolio. Portfolio is basically share market. Basically, share market has different portfolios. I'll talk about portfolio. You have different companies, insurance companies there. You have banking. You have manufacturing, agriculture. These are all portfolio. So it's not basically a portfolio investment. Is that clear there? Okay. Next, put the heading foreign institutional investment. Foreign institutional investments. Okay. These are indirect investments. These are indirect investments which can get into stock markets, as well as bond market, bond market. That means they can also buy bonds, stock market as well as bond market. FIIs are highly volatile. FIIs are highly volatile, and are also called as hot money, Is this clear till there? Okay. FIIs are regulated by money, hot money. FIIs are regulated by SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India. Is that clear? Okay, FIIs are regulated by SEBI. Word is clear, no? FI. Okay. Then put the heading borrowings. In. So we'll just write the basic word there. ECB, external commercial borrowing. These are long-term loans. Raised by corporates from outside India. Long-term loans raised by corporates from outside India. Is that okay? Next, external assistance. These are soft loans. Generally taken by government. Is that clear? Understood everybody till here? Okay. I'll ask you one question now. Before I proceed. Okay, till here the words are clear, right? Now, we have understood what is a bond. Everybody has understood what is a bond. Bond? Yes. What is a bond? Not James Bond. What is a bond? Debt instrument, right? Debt instrument. Now I'll ask you one question here. There are some bonds which we generally call it as convertible bonds. Now listen very carefully. I'm not interested. I'm interested in the logic. I'm not interested in the definition. What is a convertible bond? Convertible bond means this bond, debt instrument, can be converted into equity. Means it can be converted into share. Okay. This debt instrument, it's a debt instrument, no? So let's say, now there is this company X. I am the company. I issued some papers. Okay, and I said each paper is 10 rupees. Remember, I used this example earlier to make you understand. And each one of you have purchased 100 papers, let's say. Each one of you have purchased 100 papers each. And each one of you have given me 1,000 rupees. Okay. Now, X, I am the company. I am X. I borrowed 1,000 rupees from each one of you. And I gave bonds. Okay. And you guys are the bond. You are the bond holder, or you are the lender, or you are the creditor. Okay, I as a company, I am the debtor or I am the borrower. Okay, this is clear. Okay, this is clear. So I used a debt instrument for raising debt from all of you. I've used this bond, a debt instrument, for taking loan, and therefore bonds are called as debt instruments. Now, when I issued these papers, inflation rate was 5%. Okay, and for on each paper, I said I'll pay you 5 rupees interest. Okay, 5 rupees interest. Okay, each paper I said 5 rupees interest I will pay, and I said, or I'll say I'll pay. I said I'll pay you 10 rupees interest, and this I've done when the inflation was how much? 5%. On each paper I said I'll pay you 10 rupees, 10 rupees, 10 rupees interest. Okay, is that okay? Now, tomorrow inflation became 9% rate in the market, and still I'm paying you 10 rupees, and because of that, you as a bond holder, you are losing out in the market. So creditor will lose out whenever there is inflation. Is this clear, everybody? Okay, this is what is the understanding. Now there are some bonds which are called as convertible bonds. Convertible bond means this paper which is there, you can convert this bond into equity. Equity means you can convert it into share. Convertible means you can convert it into share, and you can sell it in the stock market. You can sell. Convertible, I can convert it into share. Okay, is that okay? UPSC asked one question, one simple question. Now I'll ask you the similar kind of question. Now, the risk of inflation is higher for convertible bond or non-convertible bond? No, just think. The risk of inflation is higher for convertible bond or non-convertible bond? Non-convertible, don't hesitate. See, here risk of inflation, you can't convert, no, you are getting only 10 rupees, you can't convert. Means whenever inflation is increasing, the risk of inflation will be higher when you can't convert the bond to equity and you are holding it as a bond. Are you able to get this? But if you can convert it into equity, sell it in the market, etc., the risk of inflation is less. Is that okay? Okay. But UPSC did not ask this. UPSC asked a question saying that as a company or as a company I should pay you more interest to make you buy a convertible bond or a non-convertible bond? I think you're getting my point. I'm asking a question here. If I'm saying I'm paying you 10 rupees interest, if I say I'll pay you 8 rupees also, you will buy this bond if it is convertible or non-convertible? Okay. Okay. So you said risk is high for whom? Non-convertible. Risk is high. So non-convertible risk is high means I should pay you more interest to motivate you to buy a non-convertible bond because your risk is high. This was the question UPSC asked. UPSC statement is, for a convertible bond, the interest or coupon that is paid can be less. Yes. Are you able to get this? So just try to understand the logic. I'm saying if it is a convertible bond, it can be converted into share. Though I pay you less, you will be interested in buying. I need not pay you 15 rupees or 20 rupees because the risk of inflation is not there because you are buying a convertible bond. But if it is a non-convertible bond, risk will be higher. Okay, so therefore I have to give you more interest to motivate you to buy my bond. Are you able to get this? So generally when we are understanding something a little deeper, we have to go. This is just an example. Of course, I know that's not part of a basic discussion, but just to ask you for a logic basically. So convertible bond, just write that word, convertible bond. Convertible bond, write down. These are bonds which can be converted into equity. Bonds which are converted into equity. Non-convertible bonds. Non-convertible bonds these bonds cannot be converted into equity. These bonds cannot be converted into equity. Okay. Now listen very carefully. I'll ask you one question here. You have written that chart, no? Now here, listen. If a corporate company in India is issuing some bonds, listen. If a corporate company in India is issuing some bonds for NRIs, foreign entities, non-resident Indians. If a corporate company is issuing bonds, generally issuing bonds, and the company is raising money, then that the money which the company has raised like this by issuing these bonds, will it be seen as investment or generally it should be seen as borrowing? I think you're getting my question. Okay, so if I am saying a company has issued some bonds and it is raising some money. Okay, bonds, you know, as a company I issued bonds. Similarly, a corporate company has issued bonds and these bonds are purchased by some foreign player. Foreign player means they're giving dollars and buying. Now this money which you are getting, so these bonds generally should be a kind of what? Borrowings, because the company is borrowing money. Company on a general note is borrowing money by issuing what? Bonds. On a general note, it should be borrowing on a general note. But if that bond, in this bond, there is 100 rupees bond, in that bond, if there are some portion of this bonds can be converted into equity means you are able to convert it into share. That portion which you are able to convert it into equity means it will be treated as what? Investment. Are you able to get my point? Okay, so generally if a company is raising money by issuing bonds, it is as good as company is raising debt, isn't it? A company is raising debt means a company is borrowing money. I as a company, I issued bonds, you purchased it, means what happened? I borrowed money from all of you. That means it is part of what? Borrowing, that company has borrowed. If I am doing it from outside, it is ECB. So that means if a company is issuing some bonds and raising money from outside India, from the NRIs, etc., then it should be part of what? ECB, on a general note. But if these bonds, afterwards, these investors who are there, okay, who have invested, they can convert their bonds into what? If it is a convertible one means what? You can convert it into share or equity. Share is what you are talking about? Investments. Are you able to get this? Okay, so like that, at times they are going deeper and asking some questions. But today you will only understand the word current capital and then bond is clear. Convertible bond, the word convertible bond, convertible into equity. Non-convertible means something that cannot be converted into equity. ECB, long-term borrowing made by corporate from outside India. External assistance, it is basically soft loan. I hope it is clear. Okay, now let's move. No, this is not about India, no. This is external transaction of India with rest of the world. आपके जो भी transactions है outside world के साथ. So that is getting recorded in this accounting statement. BOP is an accounting statement. ठीक है? You can't say Manmohan Singh's time many bonds are issued. Now it depends on which bond it is, what kind of bond. There are some bonds like inflation index bonds, etc. That we will talk about those later in the stock market class. Okay, so many bonds are there based on the types of bonds. That don't worry about those now. Just understand the concept. Types of bond, we'll look into it later. Is that clear till here? Okay, now listen very carefully. Now after 1991, so we are in the 1991, we said 1991 we were facing what crisis? BOP crisis. And BOP crisis, and this is what is BOP crisis. Forex is not there. Current account challenges, capital account challenges. That is what is BOP crisis. Now we had to increase our forex, obviously. India had to increase forex. On one side, India started liberalizing norms, obviously with respect to FDI and FI. Suddenly, there was a lot of inflow of investment, especially into stock exchanges, which SEBI could not handle. SEBI did not have the experience, and therefore you had several scams like Harshad Mehta scam, etc. See, always remember, even regulatory bodies will learn from experience. Regulatory body, if something happens, then you learn from experience. Oh, if this is happening, this is how you will solve it. Okay, before 1990, we did not have so much of experience. SEBI also did not have so much of experience to handle inflow of foreign investment, and therefore the sudden inflow of investments created lot of problems in the stock exchanges. This is one observation. But at the same time, we were in dire need for this investment. We wanted so much of investment because already we are facing BOP crisis. Along with that, when we are facing BOP crisis, we ask a bank for help, and obviously which bank we generally ask for help whenever you're facing BOP crisis? IMF, International Monetary Fund. So IMF basically helps its member countries. If you're a member of IMF, you will be helped whenever you are facing some BOP crisis. And these institutions basically, they go ahead with giving loans which are called as conditional loans. Remember, I've used this word earlier, conditional loans. And when you're asking help from IMF or World Bank, they give conditional loans. And India had to implement something like reforms, which we call it as LPG reforms. So as part of it, India had to bring detailed reforms with respect to these are called as structural reforms, or with respect to its economic fundamentals. These structural reforms will cover the whole syllabus of economy. We can't discuss this now, but structural reforms means India should bring changes with respect to several aspects, including India has to bring reforms, for example, with respect to its industrial policy, the way you give licenses, etc. Or India also has to bring reforms with respect to its forex related reforms. Okay, that means you have to leave things to the market. RBI, please don't interfere in the value of currency, etc. Forex reform. Similarly, India had to bring reforms with respect to taxes. So India had to liberalize, basically, liberalization. We use this word liberalization. Remember, I said earlier, we said FERA and FEMA. Remember these words? Okay. So like this, we had to implement a lot of bring in a lot of reforms in the economy. And each one is a separate topic for us in the discussion, basically. So one of the important reforms we had to bring during that point of time is also related to tax. India had to bring some reforms with respect to taxes. That means in India, our taxing system was bad, obviously. If the taxing system would have been good, then obviously why there is this necessity of bringing something like a reform. So basically during that point of time, lot of changes were brought in with respect to many aspects in the Indian economy, whether it is industry, whether it is our the way we issue licenses, or whether it is our acts like FERA, FEMA, observe that, and also the tax related reforms, etc. So India had to bring in a lot of reforms, okay, during that point of time, and one of the aspect is tax. And all the reforms which we implemented from 1991 plus, okay, 1991, immediately after the BOP crisis, all such reforms were called as first generation reforms. So these reforms were mainly implemented to move out of the financial crisis. So immediately after the BOP crisis, whatever reforms India implemented, they were called as what? First generation reforms. But after a period, whatever reforms India implemented in 1999-2000, that is, they brought in a lot of reforms. It is related to the industrial policies, taxes, etc. All these reforms which India has brought in were called as what reforms? First generation reforms. We'll talk about it. Then 1999-2000, India has come up with reforms which are called as second generation reforms. Second generation reforms. Are you able to get this? Now, first generation reforms means what? All the reforms. Who named the second generation? Ministers that time. Ministers, politicians that time, they wanted to use a terminology, obviously. They said all those reforms which we implemented immediately after BOP crisis, after 1991, were termed as what? First generation reforms. So, widely speaking, these reforms were handling reforms related to taxes. They were handling reforms related to the industrial policy. Industrial policy. Okay, that means earlier it was more of license Raj. So, moving slowly towards open or what? Market economy, or reforms related to forex, foreign exchange reforms. Okay, so like this we were focusing on many things, including liberalizing norms with respect to current account. Liberalizing norms with respect to current account. I'll talk about this area we will talk. So, first generation reforms, we were trying to focus on most of these things. But because of that, after 1996, India's growth was okay. We have stabilized our economy. But subsequently, if you have to maintain the growth and continue it forward, you also have to bring these reforms, which were termed as what? Second generation reforms. And these reforms were difficult to implement. These reforms were difficult to implement. Difficult, why difficult? Because these are basically related to bringing changes with respect to the laws. For example, these are related to legal reforms. Legal reforms means what? Suppose you have to amend laws with respect to labor related laws, you have to amend. So, it is legal reforms. Labor laws have to be made more liberal. So, you are trying to liberalize norms with respect to labor laws. That means amending laws, and there will be protests from trade unions. Suppose you said stringent labor law is there earlier. So, in the earlier stringent labor law is what? If you have 100 employees in a company, you cannot retrench the labor unless government permits. Now, you want to amend it and you want to come up with a liberal labor law. Means you have to make a change with respect to this act. Are you able to get this? These are legal reforms. These are legal reforms. But the question is, if you are trying to make labor laws liberal, from the other side, you will have opposition from the trade unions. Are you able to get this? Trade unions will say, how can you make it liberal? How can he fire us? Okay, so labor has to be protected. Like this, you will have challenges. Are you able to get my point here? Okay. Similarly, they said, you should also bring reforms with respect to, these are called as factor market reforms. Factor market reform means you should mainly bring in market. That means government should not regulate prices. Government should not regulate prices or with respect to whether it is like petrol or diesel, etc. You slowly start leaving things to the market. Leave things to the market. So, that means completely leave the price determination to market, or remove something like APMs, you call it as. I'll come to this. Okay, now before I come and discuss, like before we discuss this, first thing what you will remember here is, immediately after the BOP crisis or 1991 crisis, whatever reforms we have implemented were called as what reforms? First generation. And these include most of the things. We will talk about the basics of taxes now, basic of taxing, how India taxing was there, why there needs a reform, etc. Basics only. Again, in the fiscal policy class, we'll dig deep into the taxing. But why taxing system was so bad in India? Okay, and today government had to bring in reforms like GST. Are you able to get this? So that is one area we will see after the break. Okay, and these reforms were part of which reforms? You're tired, huh? Okay, first generation reforms, huh? Okay, take a break. Okay, put the heading first generation reforms. First generation reforms. First generation reforms. Write down. All reforms implemented by the government. All reforms implemented by the government immediately after 1991 economic crisis. 1991 economic crisis. Immediately after 1991 economic crisis. It focused on tax reforms. It focused on tax reforms, comma, industrial policy reforms, comma, financial sector reforms, etc. Okay. Then write down second generation reforms. These are reforms implemented. These are reforms implemented in 1999-2000. To mainly extend the benefits achieved, through first generation reforms, and also rectify the lacunae, or rectify the problems, right down, rectify the problems, and also rectify the problems in the Indian economy. Rectify the problems in the Indian economy. Okay, that's it. Okay, so first generation, second. Or just mention. These reforms are difficult to implement. And they mainly focused on factor market reforms, okay, comma, legal reforms, agriculture related reforms, comma, capital account convertibility, etc. Capital account convertibility, etc. Now listen very carefully. That's sufficient. The definition is okay. Now, what is the meaning of convertibility? What is the meaning of convertibility of currency? So the first question here, what is the meaning of convertibility of currency? Actually, UPSC will ask questions on basics only. This question was asked 4 years back. So what is convertibility of currency? See, convertibility of currency means converting one currency into another. As simple as that. Converting one currency into another. That means converting dollars into rupees or rupees into dollars. Okay. And when I say fully convertible means there are no restrictions. So easily convertible. Easily convertible means what? There are no restrictions when we are converting dollars into rupees or when we are converting rupees into dollars. As simple as that. So here, Indian rupee, our currency convertibility was mainly under the control of government. Listen very carefully. That means before 1991, if I have to convert rupees into dollars or dollars into rupees, there were more restrictions laid by the government. What is the meaning of more restrictions laid by the government? This convertibility was not happening according to market fundamentals. Convertibility was not happening according to market fundamentals. For example, let's say $1 is equal to $1 is equal to 13 rupees. This is market rate. Just an example. During 1990, $1 is 13 rupees. Market rate, let's say, just an example. Now, let's say my brother has sent some $1,000 into my account. What is that $1,000? It is nothing but remittances. Yes, and now I should be in a position to convert these $1,000 at market rate. That means 1,000 into that day, the prevailing rate, market rate is 13. So I should be able to convert that 1,000 multiplied by 13. Now suppose government says, no, this is $1 is 13. This is the market rate. And there is also one government rate. $1 is 7. This is government rate. Listen very carefully. Now government is saying, no, $1 is 13 market rate. And $1 is 7 rupees. This is government rate. Now out of $1,000 which your brother has sent you, convert $600 at $1 is 13. $600, 60%. You convert it at $1 is 13. But 40% is $400. You convert it at government determined rate. Just an example, try to understand this. Now, what is government doing? Government is trying to interfere with respect to convertibility of currency. Government is trying to interfere because government is not leaving it to the market. Government is trying to interfere with respect to convertibility of currency. I want to convert currency dollar into rupees because your brother has sent you some money. Now, when the money is moving in, he said $1 is equal to 13 rupees. You can convert at a rate, only 60% you can do it at that rate. That is market rate. But 40% you have to do it at government. Indirectly, government is holding some control with respect to convertibility of currency. Okay. Now, suppose government says, your brother can maximum send maybe $3,000 in a year, not beyond that, remittances. So, if you want to get more than 3,000, then you have to take permission. That means government is trying to regulate the convertibility of currency with respect to which account? Current account. Government is trying to regulate the convertibility of currency with respect to current account. Similarly, I may be an exporter or I may be an importer. Who is an importer? Importer is buying some raw material from outside. Now, I decided to buy some raw material from outside for my business, and then I am making payments. And when I am making payments, there are different rates. Now, $1 is 13 is the market rate and $1 is 7 is the government rate. Now, government says, government is putting up some restriction that you can only convert at this particular rate. As an importer or an exporter, when you're doing trade, okay, government says certain percentage you do it in this format, certain percentage you have to do it in this format. Indirectly, government is trying to control and things are not left to the market completely. Now, before 1990s, this aspect of currency convertibility, what is currency convertibility? Converting one currency into another. This aspect of currency convertibility was regulated by government, okay, before 1990s with respect to both current as well as capital. Capital account investment was not easily allowed into India. Okay, so both were regulated by government. But after 1991 reforms, we have brought in reforms. So we said we have brought in reforms with respect to convertibility also. By 1996 plus, government removed almost all the restrictions, with respect to current account. As part of first generation reforms, okay, by 1999, we see that the current account was made fully convertible. By the time of 1999, current account is made fully convertible. What is the meaning of current account being made fully convertible? Government will not interfere with respect to the transactions which are part of my current account. So here everything happens with respect to market. Government will not interfere whatsoever with respect to regulating the aspects related to current account. But before 1991, even these were regulated by government. Okay. Are you able to get this? So convertibility, converting one currency into another. But even today, remember this, even today, our capital account is not fully convertible. There are restrictions even today with respect to capital account. So before 1991, obviously there were restrictions. After 1991, slowly they have brought full convertibility with respect to current. But even now, even today also, we can say our capital account is only partially convertible. What does that mean? Government still has some control with respect to those aspects which are part of my capital account. Are you able to get this? So as part of second generation reform, they said we have to think about complete convertibility. What is the meaning of complete convertibility? Convertibility with respect to this as well as capital account. But even today, remember, capital account is not fully convertible. What does that mean? Even today, there are restrictions of government when it comes to this aspect called as capital account. Government tries to control. One simple way, one simple example of government's control. Even today, you say government says FDI, when you're coming in, it's fine. Move in. But when you have to move out, you have to sell, you are converting rupees into dollars and you want to take it out. Company, let's say General Motors is operating in India and it's making losses. Now General Motors suddenly decided, let me close my shop. I'm not able to do business in India. Convert these rupees into dollars and I want to go back to US. Now, it is not as simple as it sounds. Like the current account, this convertibility, government restriction, you need government's permission, RBI's permission. In fact, if you want to move out of India, that means indirectly government is holding control with respect to which account? Capital account. Are you able to get this? Now, suppose government, even today, it says you cannot borrow money through ECB route beyond an upper limit. Maybe government slowly is enhancing the upper limit, but there is an upper limit with respect to your borrowing. That means you cannot borrow as much as you can through the ECB route. That means government is putting some restrictions even with respect to this route called borrowings. Are you able to get this? Now, present government, Modi ji basically is slowly liberalizing norms with respect to even capital account. Slowly liberalizing norms means you're saying, okay, fine, we are allowing 100% FDI into defense, insurance, etc. We are allowing easy investments into these companies, but even today, Indian rupee is only partially convertible. It is fully convertible with respect to current, but it is only partially convertible with respect to capital. That means government even today has some restrictions with respect to the capital account. So making rupee fully convertible or capital account was also focused as part of the second generation reforms. But India, what India tried to understand is, India has observed other countries. And when it was trying to liberalize its capital account also, India had to observe other countries. And one of the important observation of India was 1997 Southeast Asian crisis. So when you're trying to implement something, you will check. You will not blindly go ahead and implement. Slowly we liberalized norms, industrial policies we liberalized. But at the same time, blindly we cannot go and implement anything. So in 1997, there was something like a financial crisis, or we call it as Southeast Asian crisis. So this crisis was basically in Southeast Asian countries. Like the countries like this crisis started off from a country called Thailand, Laos, Brunei, Cambodia, Vietnam, all these are what? Southeast Asian nations. Okay, so this financial crisis started off from a country called Thailand. And these are the countries which opened up their markets way in mid-1960s. When India was following a closed economy, India was following import substitution. These countries removed the barriers and started allowing foreign investors to invest. And they started producing. And after they have produced, they were also focused on exports, and that's how these countries were growing. So foreign investors were moving into these countries, they invested, produced, and they started selling it. This is how these countries have benefited because of foreign investment. But at the same time, in these countries, there is full convertibility. Full convertibility means these investors, they will come whenever they want, and they want to leave, they will close the shop and move out whenever they feel like moving out. So there is complete convertibility in these Southeast Asian nations. So their exports were mainly going to European and US, European countries and US. And when Europe, and specifically US, went into slump, there was some economic problem in US. US stopped buying their exports. You said, we don't want your exports because we are struggling. So when they did not buy the exports, these companies, foreign companies which are operating here in Thailand, they started making what? Losses. And when they made loss, then they started making losses. First immediate thing what they did, sell this company off. Why unnecessarily? There's no point in running a loss-making company. And they converted currencies into dollars and they moved out of these countries. But who were working in these companies were the locals. who were working in these companies, obviously locals were working, and because of sudden movement of this companies, suddenly closing of the companies and moving out, has created a challenge or problem. Obviously, it will create what? Unemployment crisis in these countries. Are you able to get this? Along with unemployment crisis, obviously, it will lead to something like poverty. So, India was little hesitant to bring in complete convertibility, and they have appointed some committees also, which we'll discuss in the external sector class, Tarapur committee, like that. They have appointed some committees to comment on capital account convertibility, and India said we will go ahead with capital account convertibility, means removing restrictions with respect to capital account. We will do it gradually. You know, gradual means over a period of time we will slowly remove restrictions with respect to capital account, but we will not be doing it immediately. Are you able to get this? So, word convertibility of currency. Convertibility of currency means converting one currency into another currency. Converting one currency into another. So, put the word convertibility of currency. Converting one currency into another. Convertibility of currency. Converting one currency into another. Okay, continue. Even today, Indian rupee is partially convertible. Even today, Indian rupee is partially convertible. It is fully convertible with respect to current account. It is fully convertible with respect to current account, and it is partially convertible, and it is partially convertible, and it is partially convertible with respect to capital account. It is partially convertible with respect to capital account. Okay. Government is going ahead with gradual liberalization of capital account. Gradual liberalization of capital account. Is this clear, everybody? Okay. So, first generation, second generation, and the meaning of what? Convertibility of currency. Now the next question comes up. Do you think tax plays an important role with respect to foreign investors to invest? And yes, now the question comes up. The question comes up here. When we use the word tax, okay, we'll get into types of taxes a little later, but the first question is, do you think something like the tax policies of government can also affect the efficiency with respect to logistics, transportation, etc.? Okay. Now, one more question here. Listen very carefully. In India, earlier, 1960s, 70s, we had very high tax rates. Okay. We had inefficient, listen very carefully, inefficient taxing policy. Okay. Now, the first question is, if government wants to increase tax revenue, okay, one important source of revenue is what? Taxes. And if government wants to increase tax revenue, what are the different ways of increasing tax revenue for the government? How can government increase tax revenues? How can government make more money in the form of taxes? What should the government do? This is my question. Is the question clear? What should the government do to increase more tax collections or more tax revenues? Okay. Immediately government can increase tax revenues Immediately, short term government can increase tax revenues if it can increase the tax rate. Suddenly government says we're increasing the rate. Of course, I'm not saying it is right or wrong, good or bad, but in the short term immediately, government can collect more taxes by increasing the tax rate. Okay. Is that clear, everybody? Second, government can also increase the tax revenue by widening the tax base. Listen very carefully. Government can increase the tax revenue by widening the tax base. For example, we are increasing the percentage of population which is getting into the tax ambit. Okay, so earlier, let's say hardly 5% of the population are part of the tax ambit. Now slowly, because of government reforms, etc., now let's say 7% of the population have entered the tax ambit. Okay, so that means automatically the tax collections for the government will widen, or government can widen the tax base even through something like it can through formalization of Indian economy. For example, the small mom and pop shops, the chai wala outside. You can see in Rajendra Nagar the chai wala. I'll not name the chai wala, but there's one very famous chai wala. There's a lot of business that happens. But is it operating in the organized or the formal? Is it a formal sector? No. Formal, it is operating in the informal aspect. That means it is not purely regulated. But let's say he is doing a business worth of 50,000 every day. Don't, it's on the lower side actually. Okay, so now for example, there was one samosa wala in Mumbai. Every day this boy is selling samosas. His turnover is 1.5 lakh per day. He knows all the customers by name. Chacha, samosa le lo. Okay, this is how he operates. And they're very close to each other. And it's like now, is he operating in the organized market? No. Now, when we have, that means, remember, when you formalize, more of formalization, that means the tax base is going to widen. More companies, more entities will enter the tax ambit. So collections for the tax government will increase. There was an income tax raid on a samosa wala in Mumbai. This is another case. Samosa wala is a small shop. His friend would have complained basically. Obviously, it will be friend only, 90%, because he will know the turnover. Don't think income tax rate just happens just like that. If it's not for 5 crore, 10 crore, never an income tax department will go and do that. Okay, so that means there's hell a lot of business happening, or there's some other problem there. Okay, then only there will be a raid, isn't it? So, like this, there are several instances which are clearly visible, showing that if formalization is going to increase, then obviously government's tax collections will increase. To some extent, demonetization. To some extent, even demonetization was also leading to formalization. For example, during demonetization, the chai wala was also saying, no, Paytm karo. Understood? No. What is this Paytm karo? He would have opened a chai wala account in the bank, and he's not taking that money into his savings account. Okay, the money is going into that chai wala account. As simple as that. That means automatically, slowly that particular chai wala is becoming formalized. There will be some accounting that comes to his profits, etc. over a period of time. So this is basically called as what? Formalization. So more formalization, more widening of tax base. Similarly, government says, small manufacturers, we will help you out with respect to subsidy. We'll give you more subsidy. Provided you take this number, don't pay the tax, just take it and keep it. No, what is your problem? Take GST number and keep it with you. And if you're not making any sales, etc., it's okay. You just file nil taxes, no problem. But file GST. File it nil. But at least when you're taking GST, you are getting into the ambit of the tax. Tomorrow when his turnover is increasing, government will catch you. Come on, pay. Now this is basically what? You're trying to do what? Formalization. So like this, government tries to incentivize. So to widen the tax base. More complicated definition of what is a base. I think it is clear. Everybody has understood what is the meaning of a base. Rather than increasing the tax rate, it is always better for the government to collect more tax revenue through widening of tax base. This is not a way out in countries like India. Increasing tax rate is never a solution. Why? First, forget about investment. Tax will affect the poor man more. Are you able to get this? No, tax will affect the poor man more. Why? Because poor man already, first of all, poor man does not have the paying capacity. And moreover, you are increasing the tax rates. And whenever you increase the tax rates, listen very carefully. I have taken tax rate on the x-axis and I have pushed tax revenue on the y-axis. Now this is clear, no, base is clear. Now when I have taken on the x-axis I have taken tax rate and y-axis tax revenue. Now initially, color is not changing. Okay. Initially when the tax rate is low, revenues are low, but as and when we are increasing the tax rate, we will find that slowly tax revenues are also going to increase. Till this level it is increased. Now this is the point where you have the highest tax revenue at this particular rate. Now this is the optimum rate. Optimum means this is the best rate. Okay, now beyond which again if you start increasing the rate, you start increasing, let me collect more, then you will find that slowly tax revenues are what? Dropping. Are you able to get this? So this is the optimum rate at which you are getting the maximum revenue, and beyond which if you go ahead with still increasing the tax rate, the tax revenues are what? Dropping. This is dropping. It can be because people may resort to more of tax evasion. One word here, people may resort. That is the reason very high India's case, very high tax rates in 60s and 70s. It's not a good indicator. Not a good indicator because high tax rates means high inflation. Inflation? We have talked about demand pull and cost push. Okay. So it will lead to high cost push inflation. More GST, more inflation. Isn't it? So that means when you are increasing the tax rate over a period of time, beyond a particular level, if you still increase the rate, then you will observe that the revenues may come down. And this is basically not a viable option for increasing the revenue, because poor man will get maximum affected because of this, and people and companies may resort to tax evasion, and companies can also go ahead with tax avoidance. Now two words here. So first word, we said if a government wants to increase its revenue, it can do it through increasing the tax rate. Then I said it can do it by widening the tax base. Then I have used a word called formalization of Indian economy. What is formalization? You are trying to get those sectors or those entities which are operating in the informal sector, you are trying to get it under the ambit of government supervision. You are getting it under the ambit of government supervision. Formalize. Okay. So more is the formalization, more is the scope for what? Tax collection. I hope it is clear. India's case, our policies related to taxing were inefficient, where even the tax rates were also on a higher side in 60s and 70s. And because of high tax rates, one is products will become costly, but at the same time, government was not making more money from tax. Government was not making more money from tax because of inefficient taxing policies. Because of inefficient taxing policies. Are you able to get this? So if government is not making more money from tax revenues, then automatically government's deficits will be on a higher side. Deficit, why? It's a gap between the incoming money and outgoing money. So government is not making enough money in the form of tax, then automatically government's deficit also is going to increase. Is that clear, everybody? So therefore, there should be something like an ideal tax policy. Ideal tax policy, we'll talk about it. And whenever tax rates are also at a higher level, people and companies may resort to tax evasion, or they may also resort to tax avoidance. So two more words here. This I will talk after 5 minutes. Is this clear till here? Third way to increase tax revenue, listen very carefully, is reducing tax inefficiency. So government can increase tax revenues also By reducing tax inefficiency. Now, as part of our first generation reforms, obviously we decided to come up with tax reforms. That means our primary focus would have been in widening the tax base, obviously, and reducing the tax rates, and also reducing the tax inefficiency. These three. So as part of the reforms, our government after 1991 would have focused on reducing the tax rates, to widen the base, and also reduce the tax inefficiency. See, always remember, efficiency tax will have a direct impact. For example, if there is a lorry full of goods which has to move from Chennai to Delhi. Okay. In India, basically 60% of the transport is basically happening through road. And therefore, we call India also as a truck nation. Hardly we use inland waterways. Hardly we use other modes of transport. And maximum we depend on road. Okay. Now, the question is, if this truck has to move from Chennai to Delhi, or maybe from some place in the eastern place to Delhi, basically, how much time ideally it should take from Chennai to Delhi, basically? Lorry, not Ferrari. I am not asking about train. Okay. So I said, okay, ideally means what? Properly drive, sleep properly, drive properly. Okay. So ideally, 3 to 4 days. 3 to 4 days here. 1 day, how? Okay. Is that clear? Ideally, it should take 3 to 4 days, no? Lorry. Okay, now coming to a point now. In India, basically, when a particular truck is crossing borders, listen very carefully. Once it is crossing a particular border, let's say it's moving from Andhra Pradesh border to Orissa border, there will be the clogging of these trucks. 4.5 hours they'll be waiting. There will be nuclear deals signed between officers and the drivers, truck drivers, and immediately after 4.5 hours, another state comes up. Now, after Andhra Pradesh, again Orissa comes up. Now, again another 4.5 hours. Like this, the lorry dances and reaches Delhi in 14 days. Or at times it can take 18 also. This is heights of inefficiency when it comes to logistics. It is because of transportation issue. Because basically here, there will be traffic jams, roads are in very good condition. Okay, and also, when you're crossing borders, your taxing system is inefficient. Taxing system is so inefficient that you waste hell a lot of time with respect to movement. So efficiency is directly linked to how efficient your taxing policies are, including logistic cost. If your transportation and logistic cost is increasing, your product will become costly. And this costly product you cannot export, and nobody will buy it in the market. This is what is inefficiency. If you want to become efficient with respect to marketing, it is not just about having proper warehouses, cold storage facilities, but also your taxing system should be so efficient. There should be seamless movement of goods across the borders without much of problem. Are you able to get this? So that is also dependent on what? Tax efficiency. Tax efficiency determines even that. So that is the reason today you are talking about e-way bills and all. Before you cross, everything is registered, etc. So that there will be easy movement of goods, etc. So this was also one more big challenge in India from the beginning, 60s, 70s. Now one more important observation. In India, in Mumbai High Court and also in Supreme Court also, basically in Mumbai, there are several cases with respect to our taxing system. First of all, in a poor country like India, tax itself is a burden. Tax itself is a burden in a poor country like India. Okay, then tax on tax, India's challenge now, tax on tax. That means you're paying tax how many times? Twice. Now this will become even a bigger burden for the poor man. That means if a poor man, if he has to pay tax, okay, this itself is tough for the poor man. Now, if the poor man has to pay tax on tax because of your inefficiency, then automatically his paying capacity is going to come down. Now, this tax on tax is also because of inefficiency in the taxing system. Let's try to understand it through an example after 5 minutes. Okay, so is this clear till here? So paying tax once itself is a burden for the poor man, and if you're paying tax twice, it's going to be even a bigger burden. Okay, now when we talk about different types of taxes, okay, you would have heard of this word called indirect tax. You have to write some words. Otherwise, again, you'll not recollect tomorrow. Indirect tax, and another word here, obviously, direct tax. Okay. Difference? This is directly paid. What is the difference between both? I'll ask you this way, don't define it. Which one is more a kind of a burden for the poor man? Okay, I'll ask you another question. No, wait. You are giving two answers. I'll ask you. Listen. When you're paying which tax, you will feel the pain. Very good. This you know. When you're paying, that means when you are a software employee, a poor software employee, let's say, you are earning some 90,000. Of course, company says 14 lakhs CTC, but at the end of the day, when it falls into your account, okay, so it's something like 90, 95, and you've already taken some home loan, etc., to save that. So you go below middle class also. Now, then, and in that, the government says you fall under, let's say, 30% bracket. Okay, 30% bracket. Okay, so 30% white money, no? Software engineer. So, when he's paying this tax, I think he will cry literally. But when you're paying an indirect tax, for example, you're buying a soap in the market, you don't even realize that you're paying a tax. That's an indirect tax. You're paying because it is included in the product price. Therefore, it's not painful for you. Though you're paying it, you don't know because of ignorance. You don't know that you're paying, therefore the pain is less. When you're talking about an indirect tax, the pain is direct when you're paying a direct tax. Now, what is the basic difference between a direct and an indirect tax? No. That's too complicated. Yes. Tell me a simple example. Not example, simple difference between a direct and an indirect tax. Anybody? Wait. 1 minute. Here we have. Okay. Indirect tax? Wait. Indirect tax is same for everyone. Okay. Okay. He's right. See, that's a right. Of course, that's not the definition, but indirect. For example, Ambani Madam decided to buy a Swift. Of course, she will not use Swift for a change. And I also decided to buy Swift. Now, both of us are paying the same amount of tax, isn't it? Same amount of tax. But tax is same, but the pain is more for me. Tax is same, but the pain is more for me. Obviously, why? Because the poor man also ends up paying the same amount of tax. Even when it comes to basic food also, indirect taxes, it is the same. But the problem is higher for me because the tax which I am paying is a major chunk of my income, major proportion of my income. I am paying it as a tax. A poor man is somebody who pays major chunk of his income as tax. Major chunk of his income. Proportion. I'm talking about proportion, not the amount. Proportion. It is a major proportion of my income. Ambani Madam's, the tax which she is paying is hardly 0.000001% of her income. Are you able to get this? But the tax which I am paying may be almost like 20% of my income. Means I'll be sitting and crying. Now that means poor man is going to get affected because of this tax. Okay. Is this clear? Now the question is, one small definition. So till here, I think it is clear. Okay, so one small definition. When I use the word direct tax, listen very carefully. The impact, one definition, impact and incidence of the tax, impact and incidence of the tax are on the same point. Listen very carefully. For example, what is this impact and incidence? That means my income tax, I'm earning, I'm a software employee, let's say I'm earning some income. My income tax, the impact is on me, the first point of contact. Impact means what? First point of contact is on me. And ultimately, who is paying the tax? It's me. So impact, ultimately who is paying is nothing but the incidence. The impact is the first point of contact, The tax first point of contact is me. And ultimately, who is paying this tax? I am paying this tax. That means incidence. The impact and incidence are on the same point. Same point, it's me. Impact and incidence are on the same point. But when it comes to indirect tax, listen very carefully. The impact and incidence of the tax are at what? Different points. For example, you go to a restaurant. Okay. Restaurant, you had your lunch or dinner. Now the impact is the first point of contact is on the restaurant owner. Restaurant owner, impact of the tax, the first point of contact. But ultimately, who is paying the tax? The customer. You will find no GST, CGST, SGST on the bill. Who is paying it? You are paying it. That means this tax, indirect tax, is collected from, though he is paying it to the government, the restaurant owner is paying it to the government, but it is collected from you. It is collected from you. Are you able to get this? So the impact and incidence of the tax are at what? Different points. Different points. Is that clear, everybody? Okay. So same, any indirect tax, if you see, you will find the impact and incidence. Ultimately, this tax will be paid by the final consumer. Ultimately, this tax will be paid by the final consumer. Is that clear, everybody? Okay. Now, one more observation here. I'll ask you this question. Government decided to come up with welfare. So government said, I want to spend a lot of money on welfare. So I will do it by collecting more taxes. So government took a random decision that I will increase the tax revenue by increasing the tax rate. Random decision. I will increase the tax rate. Now in a welfare state like India, is it better for the government to increase tax rates of these direct taxes, or is it better for the government to increase tax rates of indirect taxes? Indirect. Okay. Why? Because in one go, you can make more money. I think you're getting my point. Indirect taxes rates, if you increase, you can get more money in one go. But at the same time, indirect tax rates, if you increase, it is going to affect the, I said welfare state. When I said welfare state is one state which has to take care of whom? The poor people. So you cannot increase indirect tax rates. GST rate should not be high. And that is the reason all our GST related goods are not in one basket. For example, luxury items are in 28% bracket, but some items are in 0%. Are you able to get this? Why? Because indirect taxes will affect the poor. So government should not increase this and make revenue. I'll come to this direct tax later. I'm interested in the discussion of this concept of tax inefficiency. So everybody has understood what is an indirect tax. Is this clear? Okay, now the question comes up. So poor man and the rich man end up paying the same amount of tax, and therefore these indirect taxes are basically kind of a tax which will affect the poor man more. So you cannot increase the tax rates. Moreover, if the government decides, first of all, because of this indirect tax, poor man is getting affected, and moreover, inefficiency. For example, just try to understand with an example. There is this duty, which is not, this tax is not there now. This is not there now because now you have GST. Just an example, okay. Or we have a tax called sales tax. Now all these is removed. You have one tax which we are calling it as what? GST. Now first question is, when I'm using the word excise, what is this excise duty? When I'm using the word excise duty, what is this excise? Excise duty is a type of indirect tax. I know that. I know that. It is here. Okay, so other than that, you tell me what is excise duty? Excise duty, listen. Excise duty is one such duty which is levied, or a tax which is levied on production or manufacturing. You're producing steel, you're producing cars, on manufacturing. So this duty is levied on what? Manufacturing. You're producing something. It can be anything. You're producing steel, you're producing cars, you're producing mobiles. So on that, it is levied. It is on manufacturing. And it was basically handled by the center. Generally, excise duty is handled by the center. Exceptions are there, like liquor. Do we have GST on liquor? These people should be, no, yes. Do we have GST on liquor? Yes or no? No. See that confidence? Okay, so there is no GST, but do we have tax on liquor? Yes. State. And that is the reason when you're crossing Goa borders, the policemen are very alert. Because taxes are different in different states. Now in Goa, if the tax is cheap, you take all the bottles and go. No. Are you able to get this? No. So this is basically, you should understand that this duty. Now of course, excise duty was handled by whom? Center. Now, if a particular center is handling, means it is basically center is levying this tax. Levy is what? Center is imposing. Now these words you should remember. Levy is what? Levying a tax means imposing a tax. How do you decide a particular tax should be levied by center, a particular tax should be levied by state? What is the criteria? What is this criteria? Like, how do you decide this tax should be levied by center? How do you decide that this sales tax should be levied by state? Obviously, it will be decided based on in which list of the constitution that particular tax falls. This is basically, in polity you would have read, no, union list? No, not still? Okay. If you have not read also, no problem. There are three lists. Union list is there, state list is there, and concurrent list. So some tax, listen. Some tax is falling in this list called union list. So obviously the tax would be levied by whom? Center. For example, excise duty falls under the union list. So the power to impose a particular tax will be under the control of center. Similarly, sales tax is in the state list. That means the power to impose this tax will be under the control of state. No confusion there. So the power to levy a particular tax will depend on which list of the constitution that particular tax falls. I hope it is clear. But just because you have levied does not mean you will only collect and you will only use it. There is no guarantee. You have only the imposing powers. Later on, maybe you are imposing it, but state is collecting it. There are such exceptions. But when I say levy or power to impose, it will depend on which list of the constitution that particular tax is going to fall. So excise duty falls in the union list, and therefore the central government is going to levy and collect it. Now, there is a mobile phone. Let's say this mobile phone is costing 20,000. On this mobile phone, center decided to levy some excise. This is all before GST, excise. Center said 10% excise, just an example. Means it becomes how much? 2,000 rupees, isn't it? Okay, so now the mobile cost obviously will become how much? 20,000 plus 2,000. Okay. Now basically state government says there is also a tax we have to levy, which is the sales tax. That will be around 10%. Now in India, basically what used to happen is this sales tax it was not levied on 20,000, but it is levied on this figure. 20,000 plus 2,000. So now 10% of 20,000 is how much? 2,000. Okay. Plus 10% of 2,000 is how much? 200. Is that clear, everybody? Now this 2,000 we are not worried. This 2,000 is okay. This 2,000 is fantastic because it is on the cost of the product. But the challenge is with respect to this 200 rupees. How did you get this 200? This 200 is 10% of what? 2,000. What is this 2,000? This 2,000 is nothing but what? Excise. Are you able to get this? Now the mobile cost will become how much? Mobile cost will become 24,200. One student said, because of this government was able to collect more. No, what is the problem? The question is not government is able to collect. The question is mobile cost has become 24,200, number one, and it's a mobile phone, it's okay. What if it's a food product? The food, this is basically government has collected tax twice. This 2,000, on this 2,000, again there is 10%, which is 200. So this 200 is what I was talking about, inefficient tax system, which we were following. What is this? Tax on tax. Inefficiency. The mobile, don't say only 200. On one mobile it is 200. Don't say only 200. No, sir, what is the problem? No, 200 on one mobile. Now food products, many products are there. Now this is basically tax on tax. In a poor country like India, tax itself is a burden. And if I remove mobile it may look like luxury here. But if I talk about food related items or any other necessity, also, if there is this tax on tax, it is going to create problems for the poor man, because tax itself is a burden in the country, then tax on tax is going to be even a bigger burden. Are you able to get this? Now, this tax inefficient system, there were hundreds of cases filed in the Mumbai High Court, but the top level officers were never interested in transparency. Why? Because more is the transparency, less would be the corruption. More is the transparency and accountability, less would be the corruption. Basically, that is the challenge basically. So obviously, when it comes to taxing also, officers also want more discretion. You know what is discretionary power? What is the meaning of discretion? If you become an officer, customs officer, you feel like, for example, at the state level, there is something like commercial tax. Heard of this? The commercial tax is basically handled by with respect to state governments. So earlier when somebody used to walk into commercial tax office, they used to leave their chappal and go inside. Then they say, Pranam officer, saab bata do. Now after GST came in, they are kicking the door and entering in. And they say, abhi batao, kitte bharna hai? System mein dekh ke bata do. That means you have no discretion anymore. It is purely system will decide. System will say you pay so much, we will pay. Now this is transparency to some extent, but discretion for the officer is coming down. Are you able to get this point now? Discretion for the officer is coming down. So overall transparency is increasing, but discretion is coming down. And also there were several cases filed in the Mumbai High Court about this tax on tax. And this tax on tax is a challenge. Inefficient taxing system. It is also called as cascading effect. Tax on tax is also called as cascading effect. I want you all to note down the words. I'll make you write the words tomorrow. But I want you all to note down the words which we have discussed till now. Is that clear? You have understood? Yes. So the word, just make a note of the words. One is write down tax base. Tax base. Just make a note of the words. Write it in a horizontal manner. Tomorrow we'll expand it so that you will revise. Tax base, comma. Write down formalization of Indian economy. Formalization. Just make a note of the word formalization of Indian economy. Then write down Laffer curve. Laffer. This is what is that? What we have discussed. Laffer curve talks about tax revenues and tax rate. Okay, so we'll talk about it. Laffer curve. Mention that. Laffer. Laffer. Not N. That is R. LAFOR. Is that okay? Then wait. Then write down direct tax, comma, mention indirect tax, and then mention excise duty, that's the word there, okay. Then mention tax levy, LEVY, levy of taxes, levy or imposing, okay. So levy, and then last word, just mention cascading effect, cascading, CASCADING, cascading effect in bracket, write cascading effect, write down tax on tax, cascading effect, just mention tax on tax. Class is not over. Wait, one, did I cover all the words? Okay, chalo, done.